the last bit of algebra review that we're going to be working with is the quadratic formula. Now, quadratic formula, what is this? The quadratic formula is this equation right here. When we get into this, we're looking to see what makes this answer, this equation, equal to 0. Okay, that's really what the quadratic formula helps us find. What numbers make this equation equal to 0? Just like how if I were to be able to solve something like this, and I know that, oh, well, that would be equal to 0. Or if I set an equation equal to this, I could solve that for x to figure out what x would be in order to make this 0. That's what we're doing here, except now we have something with an x squared and an x. So our first step is to rewrite this in standard form. Normally, not always, this will be given to you in standard form. So first, when I'm looking at this, I need to set this equal to standard form, but I have to make sure to set this equal to 0. So when I'm looking at this first problem, the first step, I have to set this equal to 0. So I have to think, what's the opposite of this positive 10? How am I going to move it to the other side? Because it's moving to the other side, I have to do the opposite sign. And I combine it with like terms. So 2x squared plus 7x doesn't change, but negative 1 minus 11, minus 10, would give me negative 11. So that's my first step, setting it equal to 0. Making sure you have your x squared, then your x, then your constant. Now you have to find the values of a, b, and c. Now, when you're looking at this equation, the number in front of the x is the a, or x squared is the a. The number in front of the x is a b. And the number without an x is a c. So a is equal to 2, b is equal to 7, and c is equal to negative 11. Now, sometimes people really struggle with this. If you struggle with subtraction, always change that to a negative number. But what subtraction is doing the opposite of the number shown. Now you plug into this quadratic formula. Now people get confused about that right there. That means opposite of. It does not mean negative. Repeat. That means opposite of. It does not mean negative. So when I plug this into the quadratic formula, it's saying opposite b. So my b here is 7. So it's opposite 7. So negative 7. This is plus or minus because we should have two answers. The square root. Notice how I made that strong because this whole thing has to be underneath the root. B, so again, my b here is 7. So I want to plug that. I would highly suggest always to put that in parentheses. Minus 4 times a times c. This whole thing over 2 times a. And now you have to start simplifying it. Now, what you always want to do first is simplify this part right here. That's called the discriminant. So you want to plug that into your calculator first. Now, when I plug that into my calculator, that's the same thing as 7 squared minus 4 times 2 parentheses times negative 11. Bam! I did something wrong. Notice I did multiplication there first. It's supposed to be subtraction. So it should be 137. Square root of 137. So when I rewrite this, this becomes my negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 137. This whole thing over 2 times 2, which is 4. Now at this point, you want to see if you can simplify this root. That's my fourth step, is to see if you can simplify this root. However, this is a prime number. So that's my final answer. This right here is my final answer because I cannot simplify the root at all. So looking at problem 2, my first step is to move this over. I want you to try to pause the video and try to move that over correctly. So this is what you had when you move over the negative 2. You have to add the 2 to both sides. These are the like terms. Now you want to be able to figure out your A, B, and C. Pause the video and try to find your A, B, and C. A should be negative 1. If there's no number in front, there's always a 1 there. Your B is a negative 3 because of that subtraction, and C is a positive 9. I want you to try to plug into your quadratic formula by yourself. Pause the video, try to plug in the numbers just like this right here by yourself. Try to pause the video and do that by yourself now. So this is what it should look like when you plug in your numbers. Opposite b, so that's a positive 3 because it's opposite of this. Make sure you put this in parentheses, negative 3 squared minus 4 times a times c. Now try to just plug in your discriminant right here. Just try to plug in that part into your calculator right now. Pause the video. What you should have gotten, it should look like this. When you plug it in, you should have gotten 45. So when I rewrite this, this becomes 3 plus or minus the square root of 45 over a negative 2 because our a was a negative 2. Now this time, 45 is not prime. Now we check our factor tree. This is the same thing as 5 times 9, 3 times 3. I have a group of 3 right here. So I can take out 1 3. This 3 stays there. So I still have this 3 out in front, plus or minus. This 3 comes outside of the root. This 5 had no pairs, so that stays inside of the root, divided by negative 2. This is the same thing as if you split this up, because this whole thing is divided by negative 2. It's the same thing as 3 divided by negative 2, plus or minus 3 square root 5 divided by negative 2. These two are the same answers. We will start writing our answers more like this. However, this is also correct. And there you go. Quadratic formula done. Have a great grand what?